My name is Sophie Caldwell. I am 29 years old. On the last night of the year, I accepted a dinner invitation I should have thrown straight into the trash. The envelope was thick, cream-colored, expensive in that old money way people use when they want cruelty to look elegant. It arrived at my apartment in Boston with no handwritten note. No warmth. Just a printed card inviting me to New Year's dinner at the family conservatory in Connecticut. I stared at it too long because my body remembered before my mind did. That house had a way of smiling at me while sharpening the knife behind its back. I told myself I did not have to go. I told myself I was too busy, too tired, too old to keep walking into rooms where love always came with a performance review. Then I did what I always did with them. I let a small piece of hope survive. Maybe this time they just wanted one peaceful dinner. Then I remembered being 23 in that same glass room. Everyone toasting my sister's promotion, and my father casually asking me in front of 12 people whether my work was a real career or a hobby. And still, I went. I put on a black dress, pinned my hair back, and drove through the cold with my jaw tight. By the time I pulled into the long gravel drive, the sky was already turning that dark blue winter color that makes expensive houses look theatrical. The conservatory sat off the main house like a jewel box built to impress strangers. All glass walls, iron beams, soft golden light, rows of potted citrus trees inside. It should have looked beautiful. To me, it looked like a museum exhibit for every humiliation I had learned to swallow with a straight back. The scent hit me first. Orange peel, rosemary, candle wax, polished wood. That smell dragged 100 bad memories behind it. I handed my coat to the staff. Tell stepped and felt that familiar shift in the air when a family decides the outsider has arrived and the evening can finally begin. My father, Graham Caldwell, stood near the head of the table with a tumbler in his hand, looking the way men like him always look when they have spent their whole lives confusing authority with character. Beside him was my younger sister, Elena Caldwell, draped in cream silk, glowing with the kind of confidence that only comes from never having to doubt your place in the room. Elena saw me first. Her smile appeared instantly, beautiful and poisonous. "Soph," she said, stretching my name just enough to turn it into a joke. "You actually came. Invitations usually imply that," I said, because I learned long ago that in this family, if you did not arrive armored in sarcasm, you arrived bleeding. My father gave me a slow once-over. Not crude. Not obvious. Just enough to remind me that in his mind I was still being assessed. "Good," he said. "For a moment I thought Boston had finally taught you how to avoid unwinnable situations." A few guests smiled into their glasses and pretended not to notice. Public cruelty, cushioned by private manners. Dinner was arranged perfectly. White linen, candlelight reflected in crystal. A long table that forced everyone to look toward its center, where my father sat like he was hosting a board meeting instead of a holiday meal. I sat down and forced myself to inhale slowly. Before the first toast, make a prediction. Comment réconcilie? Mock. Or ask. The meal started the way it always started. Champagne. Small talk. Performative affection. Elena described a campaign she led for a luxury wellness brand. One of those companies that sells insecurity in prettier packaging. My father told the table how proud he was of her instincts, her polish, her understanding of value. Then his eyes slid to me like a blade looking for skin. "And Sophie," he said, lifting his glass, still down in archives and attics. Rescuing the reputations of dead collectors. A few people chuckled politely. I set down my fork and met his gaze. "Provenance research," I said. "It keeps museums from displaying stolen art and forged histories. So yes, still doing real work." Elena tipped her head. "That always sounds noble when you say it fast." The laughter this time was lighter, easier. They were warming up. That was when I knew with total clarity that I had not been invited to reconnect. I had been invited to complete the arrangement. I was the contrast, the cautionary tale, the shadow that made Elena shine harder. The cruelty sharpened with dessert, because by then my father had enough wine to enjoy himself and enough of an audience to perform. A dark chocolate tart was placed in front of us. Elena finished a story about a private client weekend in Vermont. And my father leaned back and looked directly at me. You know, he said, we only invited you out of pity. I told Elena it would look bad if we started the year without including you at least once. Silence hit the table first. Sharp and stunned. Then the wrong kind of laughter tried to cover it. The kind people make when they do not know if they are allowed to be horrified. Elena lifted her glass, smiling into it. Do not stay long, she said lightly. I know this level of success must be exhausting for you to witness up close. Something inside me went still. Not shattered. Not broken. Just clear. My father looked pleased with himself. You cannot blame us for worrying, he continued. Every family has one child who mistakes independence for drifting. That line would have landed once. But I had spent too much of my adult life building quiet things. Knowledge. Legal ownership. Documented history. To let them convince me I was the unfinished one. So instead of flinching, I smiled. Not warm. Not bitter. Just enough to make Elena narrow her eyes. What neither of them understood was that the Vermont cabin Elena mentioned like it belonged to her was not theirs. It never had been. My grandmother left it to me specifically, because she knew exactly who her son and granddaughter were when no one was watching. She used to say, the only person in this family who knows the value of a thing is the one no one bothers to flatter. At the time, I thought she meant books and furniture. Years later, I realized she meant leverage. That cabin had become their stage. My father hosted discreet business weekends there, presenting it like an extension of his stability. Elena used it for private brand retreats, the kind that looked effortless online but hid chaos behind the scenes. Neither of them paid taxes. Neither of them handled maintenance. They only cared that I stayed quiet enough to let them behave as if ownership worked by confidence. Elena leaned toward me, lowering her voice just enough to make it worse. Be honest. Soph, she said, does it not embarrass you? Walking into rooms like this and knowing you will never be the person anyone is actually waiting for. That would have destroyed me once. Instead, I looked at her and felt calm. You would be surprised, I said. My father gave a short laugh. That sounds almost threatening. No, I said, taking a bite of dessert. Just observant. For the first time that night, neither of them spoke immediately. It was small, but I felt it. A crack. Coffee arrived. I excused myself and walked into the library, the room that always felt more honest than the people. I called Noah Bennett, my closest friend from graduate school and now an estate attorney in New York. He was the person I trusted when I needed both compassion and terrifying clarity. He picked up on the second ring. You sound like you are calling from inside a very expensive murder mystery, he said. I am at New Year's dinner. I answered, that bad. They invited me to mock me in person. His tone shifted immediately. Tell me. I gave him the short version. The pity line. Elena's sneer. The performance. When I finished, Noah paused. What are you trying not to say? Sophie. I looked out the window at winter branches moving in the dark. I want to sell the cabin. I said, there. Spoken aloud. It felt brutal and clean. Noah did not rush. That is why I trust him. Title is yours, he said. Clean. If you want speed, we can do speed. The question is whether you are ready for what happens when they realize you are serious. I am ready, I said. We talked through basics. A discreet buyer. A fast timeline. And the accounts connected to the property that my father and Elena treated like their personal convenience system. Noah reminded me of one simple truth. You can close what is yours. You do not have to destroy anything. You just stop keeping doors open for people who only walk through to hurt you. I ended the call and felt grief rise. Clean and sharp. Not the thrill of revenge. The ache of choosing freedom over the last object that still connected me to the family I wanted to believe in. Quick check. If you were me, would you sell it or keep it? Comment sell or keep. I returned to the conservatory and found them exactly where I left them. Relaxed. Entertained. Careless. My father looked up. There you are, he said. We thought you fled. No, I said, taking my seat with a calm that startled even me. I needed a quiet room to make a decision. Elena smiled. Bored. Should we be worried? I looked at both of them and said, yes. The room changed instantly. Not because I raised my voice. I did not. But because there are certain tones people only recognize when they have spent their lives abusing softer ones. My father set down his glass. What does that mean? He asked. It means I am selling the cabin. I said. If I threw a match onto the tablecloth, the reaction could not have been more immediate. Elena inhaled sharply. My father's posture locked. A guest looked away, as if eye contact might make them complicit. That is not funny. Elena said, what struck me most was not anger. It was fear. I am not joking, I said. My father leaned forward. Voice low. That cabin is family property. It is family mythology. I said, legally, it is mine. He knew it. He signed papers. He just spent years behaving like confidence could overwrite documentation. You would not dare, he said, as if courage is still the question. I replied, I already did. I made the call tonight. Elena stood so abruptly her chair scraped. Sophie, stop. People are booked there. I have spring clients. Then maybe you should have considered that before treating the owner like a mascot you can humiliate in public. I said. My father rose slowly. Colder. More dangerous. Do you have any idea what you are interfering with? He said. And there it was. Not grief. Not memories. Money. He had been using the cabin as a symbol. Stability. Access. A lifestyle package he did not own. Elena switched tactics instantly. Tears appeared fast. Almost professional. You are doing this because you hate us, she said loudly. For the benefit of the table. No, I said. I am doing this because you both mistake my patience for permission. Elena laughed through tears. You think this makes you powerful. Legal authority makes me powerful. I said, this just makes it visible. My father slammed his hand on the table. If you do this, you are out of this family. That would have hurt once. But threats lose force when they offer to take away what has already been withheld for years. You invited me here out of pity. I reminded him. Elena called me a failure. You both made my place very clear. I am just adjusting my assets to match your honesty. Elena's tears vanished. The ugliness showed. You miserable. Jealous. Careful, I said quietly. Or I start saying out loud why you really need that cabin so badly. That landed. Her face lost color. My father turned to her. Confused. What is she talking about? Nothing. Elena snapped. Too fast. She is bluffing. But she did not sound like she believed it. I picked up my coat and left them standing there. Both of them finally understanding that the person they invited to humiliate had spent the entire evening measuring exactly how much leverage their contempt left exposed. The hook they thought they had over me was love. The real hook was paperwork. The next week was the cleanest week of my adult life. Emotionally brutal. Logistically efficient. Noah's buyer was practical. She wanted privacy. Not legacy. She loved the dock. The fireplace. The quiet. She did not care whose name the place once carried. We moved fast. Documents. Signatures. Transfers. Every page felt like a blade cutting through old illusions. Then came the accounts. This is what outsiders miss. They imagine revenge is one dramatic act. In reality, deeper power lives in administrative structures. Nobody glamorous bothers to learn. Over the years, because the cabin was legally mine, and because my father and Elena found administration beneath them, various expenses remained tied to systems under my authority. Utility autopays, authorized cards, a shared account created for property expenses that gradually turned into a hidden cushion for their habits. They assumed it was permanent because I never forced them to notice it. I did not touch anything that was not mine. I did not falsify anything. I simply closed what I had legal authority to close. The shared cabin account, the linked cards, the reserve line. Each closure triggered notices on schedule. Each closure meant no more invisible buffer between their lifestyle and reality. Noah gave me one rule: no theatrics. Let institutions do the speaking. He was right. When the sale cleared, proceeds landed, and statements started arriving. I felt none of the triumph people imagine. What I felt was lighter, the absence of dread. No inherited asset tethering me to their access. No family place I had to preserve while being mocked by the people using it. Then the calls came. My father called early, voice sharp. "What did you do?" he demanded. "The account is closed. Cards terminated. Balances showing. What did you do?" I poured coffee before responding. "I closed accounts connected to property I sold." I said. Silence. Then his voice turned dangerous. "That sale must be reversed. You damaged business. Sales do not work that way." I said. "You damaged your business when you built expectations on property you did not own." He raged. Then he went for the final weapon. "You will die alone if this is how you treat your own blood." I waited until he finished. Then I said quietly, "Then at least I will die with my name off your paperwork." I hung up. Elena showed up later. Polished and wrecked at the same time. "You ruined everything," she hissed. "My firm is asking questions. People are asking why the cabin is suddenly unavailable. Do you understand what this looks like?" "It looks like someone who relied on access she did not own," I said. She tried tears again. Softer. "We grew up there," she whispered. "So did I." I said, "And Grandma left it to me. What do you want from us?" she asked. The answer came fast. "Nothing. That was the point. The final power is not making them apologize. It is no longer needing the apology to proceed." Elena stared at me, certainty collapsing, then left without another word. That night, my apartment settled into quiet. The cabin was gone. The accounts were closed. The statements arrived. Their money was not literally gone. They were still wealthy. But the borrowed stability, the hidden access, the confidence they wore like inheritance, that was gone. And that was enough. Because they wanted me to believe I was the failure in the family. What they never understood was that I was the quiet structure underneath their success. The part they never bothered to learn because they assumed it would always hold. And when I stopped holding it, reality finally did its job. One word only: comment, freedom, or guilt. If you want more real stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. The next one will hit even harder.